this week heading on the road against a really tough Missouri team. And guys that are going, we really got to rally together as a team, stay together as a team all week, which I think we will. Practice team's done a great job of that. And then the guys that go got to do a great job representing the whole program in a big, challenging game for us up in Columbia, Missouri on Saturday.
Hey, guys, I'll call on, and let's keep it to 2 questions, and then we'll come back to you for follow-ups, all right? Mark, you want to start talking? Sure.
Dan, what are the challenges of taking your team on the road, especially at a place that's going to be cold and going to be an afternoon game, all that stuff?
Well, look, afternoon games, we're playing in a warmer time of the day-ish. 3 o'clock their kickoff time. We'd lose, right? Right? So you lose time over there. That's a challenge in itself of making sure I understand, like, you know, what Central Time is for everybody. And you know, for our guys, I don't know. You look at the weather. You go play. I mean, we want to, as competitors, you want to play. It doesn't matter. Put the ball down and go play. You know, obviously, anytime you're on the road in the SEC, it's a challenge because the environments you go play in, the crowds, the energy that they bring, and the qualities of the team that you play from top to bottom in this league are excellent football teams. So, you know, all of that added together, you know, I mean, always creates it to be challenging on the road.
A little bit tougher question. Do you feel like you're coaching for your job at this point?
You know what? This is my 13th year as a head coach in the SEC. You know, and 365 days a year for all 13 years, you're under a certain pressure to perform. And to me, this week's no different than last week or the week before or 5 years ago or 10 years ago. I think you're just always that way. You're always expected to perform in this league.
Do I need to stand for this?
So you looked it up.
I looked it up that day while we were there.
Have you started watching?
I'm going to start watching.
Really?
Well, you know.
That you don't have the look of that
you know
guy. No, but I'm saying, yeah, but I can't believe you haven't seen the show.
I know, man. I've been told. I'm going to start watching it.
No spoiler alerts, by the way.
I'm not.
Season 2, you know?
Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Someone did tell me today it's like you're going to binge it, though, because they're just quick. So you're just going to end up watching a ton of them.
It is a binge-worthy show, I will say that.
So Dan, you know, a year ago, at this time I looked, you guys were 6th in the college football playoff rankings.
Okay.
I mean, right in the thick of things.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you feel like has happened in the 11-month period to kind of put you guys in a tougher position?
Every year, it might sound like coach talk, but every year is such a unique year with a unique team with unique circumstances that occur. Played a very different schedule this year with a very different team under very different circumstances. So, you know, it's not like, oh, this happened. You know, I mean, this year hasn't gone the way that we've wanted it to go. Unfortunately, and there's multiple, I mean, you can point at a lot of different things of why that happened and different reasons with where we're at. But that's this year's team, and it's hard. I can't compare one year to the next because each team is so independent.
So I was going to ask you, though, if you would think to the 2016 Mississippi State team. I brought that one up, I think, one time.
Yeah, that was that the year that we went to we made a bowl game with a losing record. Is that right?
And you beat Miami, Ohio by 1.
Yeah.
So, but it was
blocked field goal at the end. That was you know what was really good about that year?
Tell me.
We made a bowl game by our APR. We made a bowl game over, I think we beat some pretty high-end academic schools because of the academic performance of our football team. So that was one thing that you take you know, you can be positive, negative about stuff. But we did and won the bowl game.
But that season, so Scott was with you at the time. So does that give him a familiarity with how you're going to approach if, you know,
yeah,
the path
I would
back,
think. I think Scott and I have a great working relationship that way. I don't want to speak for him under those terms or circumstances, but he and I do have a great working relationship and understanding of identifying issues, problems, and what are the solutions to try to fix them in whatever it is that we're both working on together. You know, it's and I think we've always had that. It's not a very I do my thing, you do your thing. We've always worked really well together in looking at the big picture of things. Or I think he hightailed it out of there after that season, didn't he? Or was it another year or two? Or?
Year after. Sorry, what's very
No.
Last year, things got heated in this game. There was something just before halftime. How do you make sure there's no spillover?
Yeah, I don't see. That was kind of something that I think certain things got out of control, but I don't think it started as anything with the two teams, and I think it's something that maybe got a couple people probably made it worse than it needed to be. That were in the middle of it, and so to be honest with you, I don't see how that would even roll into this game. To be honest with you, I don't even think about it.
Okay, that's fair. Aside from 2 wins, obviously, the next 2 weeks, what are kind of tangible things that you're looking for to signs that this thing's going in the right direction again?
For our guys, I just want us to be able to play with a certain level of one, play with confidence, and 2, watch guys that have the opportunity that I've seen make those plays, and continue to sit there and say, hey, I'm in a position to make a play. Let's go make it. Because I think that, and especially, and a lot of it is younger players, because I think that builds them for the future of, hey, I'm right here in position. I have the opportunity to go make a play. Let's go make that play. And I think because that gives you, and as I bring it up with confidence, it gives you a confidence of an expectation to make more and more plays, and even make plays that I look at plays like, hey, plays we should make, you need to make. But it also starts giving you the confidence to maybe make plays that people think, boy, I don't know that he really should make that play, but what? And then you're making these special ones because you have that little bit of level of confidence. I'd love to see that from our guys.
Yeah, Dan, Elijah Blades withdrew his name from the transfer portal. Is there any chance that he returns to the program?
I don't think so. I haven't spoken to him recently about that. I spoke to him, spoke to his dad of trying to help him out every way possible for the future. So I haven't gotten to that part of it or know that yet.
How big was Emory's performance for his confidence? You've mentioned like when he stepped in against LSU and Georgia and he was able to accomplish things that was really big, but to do it in a full game. It
was fantastic. Well, he's had a couple of really good games this year, and I think for him in that type of a game, where we needed him to, you kind of got out into a shootout early in them, and they were, and I give them credit. There's some. You go back and watch the film, and there are some throws and catches that their quarterbacks and receivers made that. I don't know if you'll find any as good of those on Sunday. That you'd be hard to find any better yesterday than what you saw them make on a couple of them. So they were making special plays, and so it kind of put some pressure on us to continue to go perform and score. Now, we made mistakes and other stuff defensively too, but I think it was so huge for Emory to just sit up there and just consistently perform time after time after time, and to go and set the right. That's the top performance for a quarterback in the history of Florida football. So that is a pretty special deal, right? There have been a lot of great players and a lot of football played around here. And, when you sit atop the record book as a quarterback here at Florida, that's a special deal.
Dan, one of the things that's been so obvious this year, these glaring inconsistencies. You have a bad first quarter against Alabama, then you dominate 3. Your defense shows at Kentucky, and the offense gives game away. And on and on. It's been like a roller coaster ride. How frustrating is that, and how do you deal with solving that problem?
Well, there's a lot of different ways than you look at it. It was. There was a time it was a 42-28 we were losing in that game on Saturday, and then we outscored them 42-10. And from that point forward, and. But, you wonder, I think there's a couple things. You can look at it and you can be really disappointed maybe at times. Imagine if we played at our high level every snap throughout the season. How good could we be? You also look, or maybe we're not as good, but all of a sudden things aren't going well, and we've had mental toughness to be able to go recover from it at certain times. And I think there's all kinds of little things that go. Obviously, as a coach, and you look at your team. You want to go out. I mean, I want to turn on the film, and you want to everybody performs at the highest of levels, perfect assignment, perfect technique, perfect execution, and making plays on every snap of the game. And at the end of the game, every time we have the ball, we average 14 yards of play, and we've scored every possession, and they have -4 yards and went 3 and out every possession, right? With 2 blocked punts and a kick return for a touchdown. Obviously that's probably unrealistic, but in your mind, you want to see your team perform at the extreme highest level of all times. But that's the challenge that we have, and it is frustrating. You want to see us, but I want to see the consistency of performance. There's times to me where I thought we've had great mental resolve to come back from tough situations to give ourselves opportunity to win. And maybe it wasn't we were terrible. We just had great mental resolve to come back. There's other times where, boy, we've been really bad, and I wish we could have played better and consistently throughout the year. So I think there's a little bit of both.
Also, Damian talked about after the game the other day that he saw leadership in the locker room that had been missing for quite some time at halftime Saturday. Did you see that also?
I don't know. Maybe it was talking about me. I thought I had good leadership in the locker room at halftime. Or some of the players. I don't know. I think this. I think at halftime, I think the guys, I wasn't in there, so maybe part of it, I'm not in there the whole time. I'm meeting with the coaches for part of it, and those guys go in. So hopefully maybe some guys stood up before we got in there and kind of said, hey, guys, let's not worry about things. Let's worry about doing our job. I told you, I think it was a real simple job about we over you, of what we needed to get fixed, of guys to, because the yous, either I'm blaming you or I'm waiting for you to do something instead of, hey, why don't we just all go do our job and go execute and make plays? And it's a lot more fun that way. And that's what I talked about with him at halftime. I think at a time in that game, there's a time in that game, and I talk to our guys about this. From everything that's gone on for our season and how we've been and how it's gone, and you're losing 42-28, you could have packed it in. Very easily packed it in. And probably a lot of people in the world would do that. Just it's just too much. I'm done. But the resolve our guys showed to just buckle down and really dominate from that point forward was pretty impressive of the guys, and that doesn't happen without really good leadership. Not saying the coaches' leadership from within, and the accountability to themselves and their accountability to their teammates as a team.
Graham Hall.
You mentioned bowl eligibility with Mississippi State in 2016.
Yeah.
How critical would it be for this team to secure that this week and get those extra practices and knowing it's going to be a more normal bowl season, especially?
Yeah, well, much different than last year. I don't know. I haven't checked our APR to see where we stand that way with it all. From that team before that made it, that was pretty crazy. But it'd be great. I think for our guys to get extra practices in, get some work in. It'd be a heck of a deal. More importantly, I think our guys focus and try to get a win. I think they enjoyed winning on Saturday. I think they're excited to try to experience more of that.
That brings me to my next question. There were some, I guess we can call them takes out there after some videos came out of the team celebrating after the victory.
Yeah.
As a head coach, do you understand maybe the optics of why some people would have a divided opinion about that? Or you mentioned every game is big.
Absolutely
Is that
not.
alone worth celebrating?
Is that a win worth?
In your opinion,
I've never
Since every game is big,
won a game that wasn't worth celebrating, and I've never celebrated a loss. I've never celebrated what you guys call moral victories. I've never celebrated a moral victory. I've never danced or celebrated or cheered a loss. But I will never not celebrate a victory and enjoy a victory. Okay, and I don't. Hey, I'll give you this one. If we win 3-2 this week, we'll be dancing in that locker room. Okay, we will be dancing in that locker room, and if we win 70-52, we'll be dancing in that locker room and celebrating. I mean, we work way too hard. The players work way too hard. The game of football is something special. And I mean, I can maybe understand the people that aren't competitors or have never played football would look at things possibly a certain way. But anybody that's ever played you're never not going to celebrate a victory.
Back to Hector.
You're a good dancer.
Thank you.
I wouldn't get up in front of a bunch of guys and do that, but anyway, that was
Why not?
good.
I'll tell you,
look, you have
there's
fun with us a little bit, like with the Ted Lasso. You have fun with your team. It's like not all coaches approach it quite like that.
Well, winning, I'm going to tell you, winning is so fun. Football is such an unbelievable team sport, okay? And if you've never experienced winning a football game as part of a team, I mean, you're missing out on one of life's great experiences of being in a locker room with a bunch of guys that you just won a game as a football team. That's one of life's great experiences. And to sit there and say, like, I'm going to feel like, boy, should you be happy about that? Like, that's one of life's great experiences. That it's a shame not everybody's gotten to experience.
Well, do you think that, like, these next two games, because to use Matt Baker's most unfavorite word, apparently, I saw on Twitter, to change the narrative. Mm-hmm. Can you just in a couple of games change the narrative? I mean, with the fans?
I don't write the narrative.
Okay.
What
is it?
I don't. What
You have control over the narrative.
What narrative is we won?
But just
We
overall,
won on Saturday. We scored 70 points. We had a guy with the narrative. It depends what you want to look at your narrative. We had every right to pack it in. We're losing, and then came back and dominated the second half of the game. We had a young guy set the all-time record in the history of Florida football. I don't know if there's a bigger narrative. That's got to be the biggest narrative since when? The Tebow? I mean, that's a pretty big deal.
But you understand that that's against Sanford. And
Okay.
people will consider that as part of the story.
Okay. That's your narrative. That was yours. So your narrative is your narrative. I think one of you guys, I saw an article, right? You write once, it doesn't matter what happens, I've already wrote the story. That's your narrative as a professional journalist, that you've already written a story, no matter what the outcome is. My narrative as coach is we won a football game. We had a guy set an all-time school record. That's a pretty big deal. We had our backs against the wall. We came out, battled, and outscored a team 42-10 in the second half. The narrative's your narrative. Our narrative is we won the game. I was with the team this morning. Guys are fired up. We celebrated and had a great time in the locker room. We got a great week of practice ahead of us right now, and guys are excited to go play football again.
We've got time for just
That's my narrative. You can do whatever you want to do.
Well,
I can't control your narrative, right?
No, and part of it is like some people write opinion about what it is. Some people, like myself, just try to report what you say and what players say. But,
Absolutely.
But what do you say about where the program's sitting, and do you feel, Dan? I mean, look, I'm not questioning it. I just am wondering what you think and why you believe you are the person to fix the program and get it back to where it's contending for SEC titles.
Well, I think our goal is to compete for SEC titles, right? That's what the program goal is every single year. I don't know. I've had a lot of success for 13 years as a head coach in this league. So, I mean, I won a lot of football games, know how to win football games. I love being the head coach of the Gators. We got great young guys that are going to willing to battle and fight, and no matter what the adversity is. I don't know what else I got for you more than that. Absolutely.
a few more. We'll go to Nick back here.
You guys struggled away from the swamp this year. Do you look at any of like maybe the procedural things that you do, or have you identified any reasons why you guys played?
There's been, but all of them have been very different. That's the kind of the frustrating thing. So we're looking at that of how do you adjust those things, right? We went from one game with 15 penalties to the next with 0. And had a game filled with turnovers. Then we had a game that we actually played well for 57 minutes and 30 seconds of away from the swamp. And then we had a game we played poorly. Played really poorly. So it's more just the focus of the guys that are sticking together. I thought we had great energy on Saturday, but we also had a full team. I thought that was a great deal, and I think it helped. I think it helped in a lot of ways with guys on the sideline. It helped with the spirit of everybody on the entire team. There's guys had to go out to practice for 5 weeks without ever going to a football game. I thought that helped. So I do think that our guys look at those things and they can look and say, hey, it's not one thing, but you know what? In each of those games where there were a lot of things that we did well. Okay, so instead of just worrying about, hey, what's going wrong, let's take a look at what we did really well, and let's just focus on that part of our improvement and making plays.
And you mentioned the guys being fired up. It had been over a month since they were able to celebrate a win. Do you think that maybe can help them the rest of the season this week in practice, just coming off of a win and changing their attitude, their mindset?
I certainly don't think it'll hurt. I think it. So I do. I thought they were pretty good attitude. I think this team does always have a great attitude, but our guys were fired up. We had a really good looking attitude this morning. I'm excited to get that out on the field to see how that translates to practice. But like I said, we've had pretty good practices most of the season, so hopefully that translates pretty well.
Are you and Drinkwitz tight, close?
Yeah.
Have you even talked to him since last year here?
Oh yeah, a bunch. Oh yeah. Yeah, I've known him a long time.
He took a little shot at you guys at SC Media Days, so.
Which one?
The one about he's praying for snow. You're going to complain about. You'll be able to complain about the weather and everything anyway.
Yeah, that's okay. He's got some personality. He has some funny little one-liner stuff and that. I've known him since. What was it? I think the first time I met him was when he was like a student assistant or something for Gus Malzahn when he was coaching in high school, when I was there recruiting. So he reminds me of that. So, no, I got a lot of respect for him. Good guy. And I think there's I didn't come out with any needling of him, but I think if I did, they would know it's all in good fun.
You guys patched it up after what happened here on the field last week?
Yeah, because it wasn't like between us per se at that point. You know what I mean? Really, to be honest with you, that wasn't like I'm mad at him. Like that wasn't a deal with us. So. Mitch Mustain, yeah. It was Springdale, right? Yeah.
Fascinating documentary on him.
Is there?
On Amazon, I think.
Really? They had a bunch of. They had. I remember going to watch practice that day. It was like, Yeah, they had him, the receiver, the offensive lineman. Damian Williams, and they had the offensive line. They had a bunch of talent. So I was there watching practice. It was like a morning practice. Phil Fulmer was there watching practice that day. Who? Who was that? Was he? Yeah. There's always fun. Billy, I think, had a really funny, if I'm not mistaken, recruiting story about that one. The recruiting book could be a great one day. I think he went to fly to watch him play, and they gave him where they were going to whatever town. And the plane landed, and he's like, and it was the wrong state. It was something like that. The plane landed to go watch the high school game, and they're in the wrong. They're like, well, we're in this town. He's like, in this state? They're like, oh, no, not that state. I don't know. It was like a crazy deal. I think it was to see Damian Williams.
Dan, you've talked a lot about you guys have negative things happen, and a lot of times guys don't step up and just go make a play. Emory's performance was kind of almost exactly that, right? You have the defense maybe not playing well, special teams not playing well, and yet he goes out there and didn't make mistakes, pretty much executed.
Yeah. That was, it was huge. It was huge. And it kept us going. And I think to the part of, I got on our defense. You look, we hadn't created a turnover. Until really our backs were against the wall, we created the turnover. We didn't create a 3-and-out until their last 2 possessions. When all of a sudden, like I said, it was, I think there's a lot of things to build off of. Because in the past several weeks, when something's gone wrong, like we've been good and then it goes wrong, right? We've had a bunch of that. And this week it kind of went wrong, and then we said, hold on a second, and then we got good, for that point, especially, on the defensive side of the ball in the second half of that game. And but I think Emory's performance, I certainly think that that's one of the things that I'm talking about. Instead of, hey, defense, you need to pick it up. Don't worry about that. I'm going to go, all right, I'm going to go execute at a high level. We're going to go score points on offense, and that will encourage and elevate the level of play of the defense eventually. And I think there is a lot to that within the team of guys stop worrying about somebody else do something, and you just go perform and make plays. And when you do that, you will elevate everybody around you.
And what does it say about, you talked about, winning, celebrating winning as a team. What does it say about your team and this team that Anthony is maybe Emory's most vocal supporter?
Yeah, he is. He came to me at the end of the game, and he's like, hey, you got to keep Emory in. He needs like 20 yards for a record. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, all right. So I couldn't find you. I'm looking. I'm like, all right, we're up 3 scores in the fourth quarter, right? And he's like, yeah. So I click over. I'm like, is he 20 yards from a record or something? I'm trying to find that out. I'm like, we're not going to go in and throw the ball anyway right now. Anthony, just get in the game and go. And Emory's like, tell him to get in the game. Tell him to go get in the game and stop talking about it. Don't worry about it. And so I do think, but I think it shows the respect that those guys have for each other. And as I said, of what being on a team can be like, right? I think if you talk to so many people in the game of football that play football and grew up in football and played over a long time, one of the toughest things they probably have when you talk to guys that leave football, they don't have that. They lose that part of team in their life, which is something so special. And it shows that what great teammates those guys are and how tight the guys are together.
And just to be clear, you're rolling with Emory, right?
Yeah. Hopefully Anthony, it was, he's healthy. He's like back 100% healthy right now. It was still up and down last week. But he's 100%. As far as I know, at Monday at 1:30, so he's available to go play this week. But Emory's been playing really well, so I'm not going to say we might not have a quick package or something to get Anthony in there. I'm still putting the plan together, but hopefully he's fully available.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, Dan.